Fire away when you guys are ready.
How we doing, everyone?
Hey, Coach, I asked Logan about this too, and what difficulties does a guy the size of Liam Enterman present to your attack? Don't know if you faced anybody that big this year, a wide body in the cage.
Yeah, I would say Michigan guy's probably the best, best guy for us in terms of that, and maybe Hopkins early. Their guy's a little bit bigger, but yeah, Entenmann's a big kid, takes up a lot of the goal, plays a wide base, so his feet are really wide. So there's an illusion too that he's covering even more of the goal. So very well schooled guy, a guy that I think is an older guy as well. I think he's only, I think 2 years in, but I do think he's an older guy, like age-wise, maybe more of a junior versus the guys that didn't reclass. So kind of an experienced guy in the goal, played a lot, played obviously a great high school program in Chaminade. Ryan Moran's dad's the coach, so terrific guy. So we're going to have to play well. Arguably the best guy in the goal that we've seen.
Hey, Coach Tillman, I know this is probably, I'm curious to know, do you think this is your guys' biggest challenge of the season so far this year? And how does that kind of maybe change the mental approach? I know it probably doesn't, change what you guys are doing tactically, but how much does that change the mental approach for you guys, especially knowing that one might be the toughest opponent you're facing, and two, obviously it's win or go home?
Yeah, I mean, you put on the film, it doesn't take long to realize, they're terrific at every position. They're very experienced at every position. They did a really good job with the transfer portal and brought in some older guys in some graduate programs. So they're just very seasoned, and it's just nice to have older guys. I think we all would love to have guys that, had a few years under their belt, whether it's at your school or another school. And certainly we're happy for, to get Jared and Nick back. And then obviously with Eric and Griff, just getting some experience there. We've been a benefactor as well, but just seems like a lot of guys that have been there for a long time, and some guys that have had a lot of success, like Thornton at other places. So they just bring that experience with them.
Thank you.
With the possibility of playing nothing but ACC teams for the rest of the tournament, assuming you make it to the end, what does that say about, the strength of the conference and what problems they can pose for you guys?
I mean, I usually don't get too much into the hypothetical stuff because you just don't know what's going to happen. I know this, watching Notre Dame, they're really good everywhere. They're well coached, they're skilled, they're athletic, and the teams I'm watching them against, they're really good too. You look at the last few games they played, their conference games, those are good teams, really good teams, athletic, skilled. So really for us, it's hard for me to look past, what this weekend is. And I think I wouldn't be doing my kids any favors. It's really just about Notre Dame, but you put on the tape and you're watching some good teams on there. That's for sure.
Hey, John, the development of Roman, Alex, Joshua, Chase, I'm wondering, how has that impacted what you like to do on defense?
It's helped us in a lot of ways. Ed, you got 4 guys that, played offense in high school, and it helps us defensively because, they've been on the other side. So they have a sense of what the offenses are doing, not only individually, but also schematically, like if they had the ball in high school, where would they be looking? And hopefully that helps them with their anticipation and maybe some of the sets. But I think where it helps us even more is in the clearing game, just having guys that can handle pressure and also navigate the clears. But also, as you've seen in recent weeks, we've gotten some really good looks in transition because those guys are good going from defense to offense. They can dodge guys, they can push. Obviously, if you don't cover those guys, they can shoot and score. And we just left the practice field, and all those guys were out there after shooting. And it's just a luxury that we don't take for granted. We've had some really good defensive type middies, but we haven't really had 4 guys that can push the ball from D to O and play as well at that end. So, we're thankful for those guys. And like I said, we reap the benefit of that in a lot of different ways.
As a follow-up, can I ask, because of their development, have you discovered, or you guys don't need to slide as much to them?
We're always reading, but I think this year we don't have to slide as much, to answer your question, Ed. I don't think we have to as much because they are older. And I'd even use, 2 years ago, we had to slide to those guys more. And I think we were sliding to more guys more. So in just the defensive end, I think there is more experience. There's more trust there. Yet we know that we're playing against good teams, so they're not on an island. So if we do need to help them, we're happy to go, because that's just what we do. But I do think it's nice not having a freshman out there that maybe we're rushing into it by need, and they're just getting blown off the ball, or physically they're just not strong enough to cover some of these really big middies.
Thank you, John.
Sure.
Hi, Coach. I was just curious, with your 5th-year guys, Anthony and Jared, having been around for that 2017 team and title, is that something that benefits you during these 3 weeks, that they kind of saw or played and learned how to handle the situation?
Absolutely. I think one of the things I've mentioned with Jared all year was he's such a selfless guy. He keeps saying that he wants the other guys to be able to experience, the journey and the experiences and a lot of the things that he got to experience when he was a young guy. He obviously had a great senior class in 17 that, just led the right way, but also we had a lot of big games and successes. And I think he reflects upon those, times fondly, whether it's winning the Big Ten championship or regular season, or, getting deep in the playoffs. I think he just wants the younger guys to know what it's like. And, winning that tournament was something we hadn't done in a while. And it'd been a couple of years since anybody had won the Big Ten. So that's been great. And I think, again, that's the selfless part of Jared, is he's kind of thinking about his teammates and not himself.
And then kind of on the same topic, but without a postseason last year, you kind of came into this one with a whole bunch of guys who had never experienced this before. Is that something you have to take into account when you were preparing last week? And on a similar note, did you almost appreciate it more, given that these guys are all going through it for the first time?
Well, I think you saw that a little bit last week, to be honest with you. In the first half, if you think about our black midfield, Griffin, Eric, and Eric, not a lot of playoff games between those 3. And we looked a little nervous, I think, early. What I liked is they kind of played their way through it. We had some silly turnovers and some drops, and, just wanted them to kind of catch their breath, take a deep breath. It's the same game we've been playing all year. Another good team, but you've played against good teams, and just kind of settle down, keep it simple. And I felt like the guys got into a groove. You saw Eric, obviously doing what he does behind the goal, and then Griff stepped up and kind of got it going. So it was nice to see, even though we had been in the Big Ten playoffs. I just think it was a kind of a different feeling. So I'm hopeful that'll serve us well this weekend coming up.
Hey, John, Danny Maltz, what does he kind of add? He's kind of the unheralded guy down there in terms of, a lot of the accolades go to the other 2. What does he add to you guys? And then outside of just being a finisher, that seems like a very limiting descriptor to what he can do. What else is kind of a big part of his skill set?
I think Danny's smart, skilled, opportunistic. And, a lot of times when you're recruiting guys that can break people down, because you need to do that, right? You need to make people slide, and you need to create offense. And you're looking for these, big, strong, or very quick, or big, fast and quick, all those things. So, you're recruiting guys that are used to having the ball in their stick. The problem you have is, offense, so much of offense is chemistry. So you need guys, it's not always the top 6, it's the 6 that play best together. And to me, Danny Maltz, there's a lot of things that Danny does. His body type is different, but his mentality is very similar to Timmy Rotant's. Timmy was very good at just letting the game come. He knew he had Colin Heacock and Matt Rambo, you know, and Connor Kelly. He had some dynamic guys. So I think he kind of said, all right, they're going to like kind of set the table and then I can just play off that. And I feel like Danny's really good because he doesn't crave or need the ball, but if you don't respect him, he can get to good spots and get his hands free and score, but he'll play off other people. So it allows you to have better chemistry because you don't have 6 guys trying to do the same thing. And there are ultimately a lot of guys in college who all want the ball in their stick. And then if they don't have it, they just stand around. You're not going to be very good in college lacrosse if you're away from the ball and you're just a spectator. You have to be a good cutter. You have to find good spots inside. You have to move and share the ball. And Danny, being the youngest of 3, I think he's been coached up on that by his brothers very well.
Thank you.
John, you guys have gone up against some great offensive talents in the Big Ten all year, but what kind of unique challenges does Pat Kavanagh present to you, and how is Jesse in the defense preparing for him?
Well, you got a guy who's a Tewaaraton finalist, and I'm on that committee, and he deserves it. He's really good. He's as advertised. You know, we recruited his oldest brother who went to Notre Dame and was unsuccessful, unfortunately. And he had a great career and obviously know the family well. So he's really blossomed, and he's always been a guy that has outstanding skill. He's ultra competitive, tremendous instincts. And he's just kind of grown into his body, gotten bigger and stronger. So those instincts and that competitiveness and those skills aren't going away. It's almost like being a 6'7" guy who's a point guard / forward who becomes 7'1", and he brings all of those skills, you know, just bigger. So you get a guy who, again, is tremendous behind the goal. They put him in front of the goal. He's good inside. He's excellent on the ride. So he makes guys around him better. And they have a lot of really skilled parts, and their coaching staff does a great job of, you know, finding schemes that fits that personnel. So, you know, if you help too much on Kavanagh, he'll get you inside, or he'll skip it, he'll move it. If you don't help enough, he'll get to the goal, and you're going to have problems. And the same thing with the other guys. You know, they balance the field well. So if you help too much, they're going to throw it and get step downs or attack approaches or move it to the backside. And if you're slow, they'll just run right by you. So they're going to put us under pressure. We're going to really have 7 guys at that end working as one, including the goalie. And we're going to have to really communicate, flow, anticipate, and work as one. And even with that, we're going to have to get saves.
And thinking back on the game that Kyle had on Sunday, you know, the 3 goals and an assist, how important do you think is going forward for you guys, for someone like Kyle to step up and have a game like that on offense?
For us, I think you're right, spot on. You know, Jared's Jared. So, you know, this year he's kind of been the known. And it's not always like that, but this year he's kind of the guy that it seems like, you know, you're going to get a good production from him. For us to be what we want to be, it should be, I wouldn't say every week, but the guys in their production should change week to week, at least some, you know, like, and you hope that's because maybe they key too much on one guy and the other guys get more opportunities. Or, you know, like the guys are just playing off each other so well that guys, you know, kind of have their opportunity to make the most of it. Because some guys, like one week, Kyle could get the pole, which makes his job a little harder. But that opens up Anthony and Bubba and vice versa. So if we are that way, it makes us so much harder to scout and prepare for. So we're not just like, okay, if you do this, they're basically not going to be able to score, or you're going to take away something. We've really preached over the last couple of years to be a team that's, again, always moving, organic. You know, again, we're going to have certain principles and philosophies, but we want our guys to kind of play off of what the defense gives us and be creative. But we want to make sure, based on where your teammates are, that a lot of times that's going to dictate what you do, but also what they're doing. You know, are they sliding from the crease? Are they not sliding? Are they fake sliding? Are they sliding adjacent? So because of that, that may dictate what we do. So we just don't want teams to go in on a weekend and go, okay, this is what Maryland does. They do the same thing every time. If we do this, we'll shut them down. But you need flexible parts. You need guys that can play all over the field, guys that are willing to cut and move and be willing to kind of go inside, but also up top and behind. Luckily, we have a lot of kids like that, so that scheme suits us well. It does make it a little bit vulnerable the other way if you have some middies behind. So, it's something that we're willing to live with right now. But for the most part, to me, it's a little less predictable than a scripted offense. And defenses are so good at scouting you. You just can't be real boring or vanilla, or people are just going to take those things away.
Coach, you played Coach Corrigan a lot since you've been in Maryland. To his credit, he was one of the ACC teams that did not abandon Maryland when Maryland went to the Big Ten. You played him every year. He has certain MOs about him. I go back to 2010 with Scott Rogers in the goal, where he kind of let Maryland fire from long range against Rogers, and Maryland couldn't get the nets at all. What is an MO of a Coach Corrigan team?
I think Coach Corrigan is a really smart guy. I've known him a long, long time, and I really feel that way because I know as a college guy, we went out and played Notre Dame. I think it was back in 1991. So Nick Grill just walked in, he's laughing. He knows I'm an old guy, but he is a really smart guy. And over the years, you see guys on the road and you're at conventions and you talk to him. And certainly he's a guy I've respected a lot and learned a lot from. But just on and off the field, a really bright guy and a guy that I think he's really good at maximizing what he has. And I think the early years of the program, they were kind of just getting off the ground. I mean, you kind of look at the fact that like he started that thing and he's the only coach they ever had and he's done so well. He's taken that from the very beginning and now is like one of the best programs out there year after year. Yet they are a little different every year. I think he's got some core things that he likes to do defensively. They've done a lot of the same things for a long time, and Coach Byrne did a great job as the defensive coordinator, but it's still Notre Dame's defense, and they're doing a lot of those same things. So the beat kind of went on. And then offensively, I think he does a great job of just figuring out what his personnel is, and then just, finding schemes and building schemes that work for them. But he's not so rigid that he's only going to do it one way. I think he kind of looks and like, all right, you know what, we're a little bit better at the midfield this year. Maybe we'll do more there. Or if we're a little bit better at the attack, we'll initiate more there. Some years they've ridden more because they are super athletic there. I know in 2014, it was a bear to clear against them, and it's not easy now. But that group they had in 14, I just remember being in the national semifinals. And it was every time we got it from defense to offense, it was a struggle, not only for us, but everybody that year. But he put schemes together for that attack that was really fast. And, all of a sudden it was a way to create offense and create unsettled and almost play defense in their own offensive end. So again, just super bright, a guy that is willing to change. And not afraid to adjust and think of new ideas or at least listen to new ideas. They're tough. They're good off the ground. They always play great defense. They always seem to have good goalies. So again, tons of respect. This year is no different. We've struggled out there. And obviously we know the challenge in front of us. It's going to be a tough game. And we know we're in the quarterfinals and we're going to have to play our best game of the year.
Coach, will you promise Terrapin Nation that if a thunderstorm breaks out at 2:30 and Coach Corrigan says, let's go inside and play this game, that this time you won't do it?
I'm hoping the NCAA people don't let us do that. I reflect back to that game. Listen, that game was a tough road trip back, but I couldn't have been more proud of our guys. I really felt like even though we lost that game, that was a great game for our team. I just saw the heart. I remember Logan Wisnauskas diving to the end line and Lou Dubik scrapping up and getting confidence. Kyle Long had a huge game that day. So even though we didn't win, we kind of walked away going, tough environment, outstanding team on the road. Hey, we got something good here. Let's just keep working and let's see how much better we can get. But that was a pretty good opponent in a tough spot. Like, you guys should be confident that going into any game, if you play your A game, like, you know what, you're going to be a tough out for people. And that's one of the reasons, like, we like playing them. I'm sure you might take one on the chin, but you're going to get better. They're going to expose where you need to improve, and vice versa. And I think that's where this game has helped both sides for sure.
All right, thanks, guys.
Thank
Appreciate it.
you.
All right, lastly, we'll have Nick